Hey guys, today I'm doing my chopping block update and number 3. If you guys did not see my intro or any of my other updates, I'll have my playlist linked up above. And basically at the beginning of the year, I went through my collection and chose certain products I was on the fence about whether I wanted to keep them or declutter them. So I decided that I was going to specifically test out these products throughout the year and make a final decision whether I would keep them or not. In these updates, I'm only going to let you know about the products I tested over that past 2 months. But if you're curious to see all the products I'll be testing throughout the entire year, you can see that in the intro. Also in these videos, I'll let you know about any products I returned, anything I had to trash because it went bad, and any other items I chose to declutter. So I'm just going to start with the items I have in my chopping block. And these first 2 products were not mentioned in my intro, but I do have a note on my phone where I've been adding additional products that I want to test, and these are 2 of those, and they would be 2 drugstore foundations. So the first one is the CoverGirl Outlast Stay Fabulous 3-in-1 foundation in the shade 810 Classic Ivory. This shade is too dark, too pink for me, and it oxidizes. This is a foundation I had tried in the past and got rid of, and my friend Amanda Alexander sent this to me. This is actually a really nice foundation. It gives you a good solid medium coverage. It holds up pretty well against my oil, and it doesn't feel too heavy on my skin. This is a foundation that I absolutely would have kept, except for the reason that right now I have so many foundations that are basically full of product and they're high-end, and I want to use those up and not spend my time working on this and have those go bad. This is something that I really wish was made in my shade because I think this is actually a really amazing drugstore foundation and a really good formula for my skin type. So once I work through some foundations, maybe in the future, I'd actually try this again. But for now, so this doesn't go bad, I'm going to pass this along to my sister, who is a little bit more neutral tone. She is darker than I am, and she likes foundations that aren't as full coverage and heavy feeling as I do. So I think she would really, really enjoy this one. The other foundation is the number 7 Beautifully Matte in the shade Cool Vanilla. Cool Vanilla is the second lightest shade in the range. It is much too dark for me and also super pink. And most of the foundations in this range have a very, very pink undertone. They do have one shade lighter, Calico, and that is a shade I've only been able to find online. They do not have it in Target stores, which is a huge bummer because I want to see it in person to see if it would actually match me. From what it appears online, it would be light enough for me and probably more neutral undertone, which I can definitely work with. I fully planned on getting rid of this foundation because I've tested this over the past couple months and it just looks way too pink on me. No matter when I add in my mixers, it still looks too pink. But today I wanted to give it one final shot, and I mixed it with a ColourPop No Filter foundation in Fair 15. I'm loving the combination so far. Now I did just apply my makeup, but I think my skin looks flawless. This foundation is a little bit more of a moussey consistency, which I don't usually like, but it's basically like a really thick liquid, but it doesn't feel heavy on my skin. This gives such amazing full coverage. It does hold up really well against my oily skin. And I really love mixing it with the ColourPop because the ColourPop is a really thin consistency. So when I mix the 2 of them together, it helps thin out the texture of this, which makes it easier to apply with a sponge, but I still have that amazing full coverage. So I fully planned on getting rid of this today, but I am actually going to keep this. Next, I've got some cheek products that I tested. The first one is the Estee Lauder Pure Color Gelee in the shade Heat Wave, which was probably the very first gold highlighter beside MAC Whisper of Guilt. I feel like this came out before, nobody cared about it. Then Whisper of Guilt came out, people found out this was a dupe, and then everyone tried to get a hold of this one as well. This is a Beige Gelee highlighter, a beautiful gold color. I found this at a CCO a couple years ago, and I've held on to this for so long because it's so coveted. But I just had to come to the realization this is never going to work for my skin tone. It is always going to be too dark. And I, this summer, purchased the Anastasia Amrezy highlighter, which is more of a white gold. That is a perfect gold for my fair skin tone because it doesn't have too dark of a base on me, and this one does. So I'm finally letting this go. I'm going to give it to my friend Ami. I know she's wanted this, and she has a more tan complexion than I do, so I think this will look beautiful on her. It hurts my heart to let this go, but I'm just happy knowing that Ami will get better use out of this. And now I actually have a gold highlight that works for me. It's literally the only one that works. So then my other 3 cheek products are the rest of my ColourPop Super Shock blushes. I'm getting rid of all of these. These are a little too dried out, and these are not easy to apply. The best way I found to apply them is using the Real Techniques buffing brush. And it's easier to get the product on your cheeks, but it's harder to blend it out. These do go over top of powder okay, but I would just rather use a powder blush. It's just so much easier to work with. And because these are older and a little bit dried out, I'm just gonna toss them. I'm not gonna give them to a friend, but I'll show you the 3 shades I have. This one is Cruel Intentions, which is a matte finish. Never Been Kissed, which is a matte finish. And Clutch, which is a matte finish. Yes, it's really sad to me that I am throwing away these products. As much as ColourPop is my favorite brand in my chopping block series, it is the #1 brand I end up throwing things away from. Their products just aren't the longest lasting, and in general, I don't like this Super Shock formula. Then there is one eyeshadow that is a ColourPop Super Shock shadow in the shade Mittens, which is a red deep brown, and this is a satin finish. This is also a little bit dried out. I tried putting this in my outer corner with a look, and it did not blend well at all. And I have learned my lesson quite a while ago, actually, to not buy any satin or matte finishes from the Super Shocks. I just stick to pearlized, metallic, ultra metallic finishes. Those are so much easier to work with. Then these, I say, go with a shimmery Super Shock on your lid and use just a regular powder shadow for the rest of your look. So this one is not completely dried out, but it isn't a good workable consistency that I'd give it to a friend. So this will be tossed as well, which is very sad. My next item I'll be getting rid of, unfortunately, is the MAC Chromographic Pencil in High Def Cyan. And this is a beautiful bright blue. Oh my gosh. So stunning, electric 80s blue. I absolutely love the color of this. So I wore this the other day for a video. I lined my lower lash line, my lower waterline, and then I think I ate lunch. I came back to film. This had run halfway down my face. A little dramatic, but like it had come down like this far under my eye. It ruined my makeup, and the consistency of this is a little waxy, and I was trying to rub it off. No ma'am, that was not coming off. I had to use a little bit of eye cream to remove it, and then it removed the makeup underneath, and then I had to try to touch it with concealer, and it really messed up the makeup for my video. So because of that, I'm getting rid of this. There's just no way I can wear it because it just bleeds and runs so badly on me. This is also very old, so I'm just gonna be tossing it, and unfortunately you can't back to MAC this, even though the cap is plastic. I guess they think that's a little bit of a cheat, so that is really unfortunate. Then lastly, we have 2 lipsticks. The first is one of the Maybelline Inti Matte Nudes in the shade Honey Pink. This color is just really weird. It is quite bright, like a neon pastel. It made my teeth look a little yellow. I do enjoy the formula of the different lines of the Maybelline creamy matte lipsticks, but this color is just not cute on me. So this one I can pass on to a friend, which makes me excited. And then the last lipstick I have is the Milani Moisture Matte in the shade Matte Darling, which is a medium salmon pink shade. This is really pretty. I do like the formula of this, and I do enjoy this color. I do have other colors that are similar, and even though this isn't my most reach for lip product, I like the color and the formula enough to keep it, at least for now. So this and the Boots foundation are the only 2 things I'm keeping out of everything that I tested, so I do feel really happy about that. Now we're going to move on, unfortunately, to the products that I will be trashing because they have expired. The first 2 would be some Maybelline color tattoos, and unfortunately I'm pretty sure Maybelline is discontinuing these because I cannot find them in the display at Target anymore, but they're still on the Ulta website, so I'm not sure what the deal is about that exactly. So I have the shade Too Cool, which is a really beautiful shimmery white. I am getting rid of this one because I did just buy a backup from Target on clearance, and this is the oldest one that I had. I bought this in like 2011 or 2012, and that's a long time for a cream shadow. So even though I can revive the heck out of these and make them work, that one is just way too old. The other one I have here is Barely Beige. You guys know I was trying to work on panning it this year, and I've mixed up the formula a couple times and it just feels a little thick. I have other champagne eye bases that I prefer the formula of, and champagne isn't really like my most used eyeshadow shade, so I'm going to be throwing this one away as well. But as you can see, I did get a ton of use out of this, so I can feel happy about that. And then I'm getting rid of 3 ColourPop Super Shock shadows. Now these first 2 were from my very first ColourPop order when they only sold Super Shocks. Yes, I know that was a long time ago considering all the products that ColourPop has now. And the first one is the shade Animal, which is a really bright neon orangey coral, and this is a pressed pigment finish because it is a neon, because it can stain your skin. And you guys know a lot of my Super Shocks have dried out, but then I just apply them with a sponge tip applicator and it works so well. Well, these are really dried out and flake in little bits, all 3 of these, which I'm wondering if it's just because they're bright, because I haven't had that with other shades, so that is kind of odd to me. And I swatch this and it feels completely like a regular powder shadow. It isn't creamy in any way, and I tried applying this as a transition or crease color and I just wasn't able to get much pigment, so I will be letting go of this one. I only used it a couple times and this was a pretty shade, but I should have been realistic about the fact that I wasn't going to wear it. I think that one is still available on the website if you're interested. The next shade I have is Ibiza. This is a pearlized finish. This is a beautiful bright blue. They do have this one on the website, and this is something that I would definitely contemplate repurchasing. I have Banana Daiquiri right now, which I really only need 1 blue ColourPop Super Shock. And then the other shade I have is Coconut, which is similar to what I'm wearing today. This is a pearlized finish as well, and I had used this in my subscribers pick my makeup video, which I will have linked up here, and I hated using it. It was such a mess, and I personally have a really hard time using dark eyeshadows. I was a little nervous even about the color I'm wearing on my lids today. I just can't apply them well and make them blend nicely, and this one was so difficult to use in that video, and after that video I was like, nope, goodbye, I am getting rid of this one. So now I wanted to talk about the 3 things I have returned since my last update. I've only returned 4 makeup products in this entire year, which is pretty dang good. So the first one would be the Tarte Amazonian Clay Full Coverage Liquid Foundation. I did film a first impression and follow-up on this foundation. I'll have that video linked up above, and this is a very moussey consistency, but it is a lot thicker and harder to work with than the number 7 foundation. I liked it best with a brush because it made it easy to blend out, but then it looked heavier and it had some brush strokes in it. It just looked and felt heavy on my skin, and the more I wore it, the less I liked it. It started to look really cakey on my forehead, and I'm not even really dry there, but it made me look a little bit more dry. Also, this did not hold up against my oil well at all, which is odd. It is supposed to be an oil controlling foundation, and the fact that it did make my skin look a little dry, you think, even though that's a con, the benefit of that would be, okay, maybe it will actually keep me matte. No, not at all. I was very oily, and I just thought that was absolutely a no-go. I have so many foundations in my collection that I prefer over that one, so it wasn't terrible, but it was just fine, and I don't need to hold on to any foundations that are just fine. The other 2 things I repurchased I just featured in my most recent haul. The first would be the Rimmel Stay Matte Translucent Loose Powder. This was very, very finely milled, almost too finely milled, where it was just like poof, poof, disappear, gone, and I didn't like that because I felt like it was going to waste. This did set my makeup nicely, and it did help keep me matte for a decent amount of time, and it wasn't a bad product, but I decided to return it because I have so many powders in my collection right now, and I had gotten the Rimmel powder and my next product with a Target gift card. I just went in and spent the whole gift card, and it was totally an impulse purchase, and I regretted it basically from the time that I got home. So even though it was a fine product, it's not something I need in my collection. Definitely not right now until I work through quite a few other powders, but it wasn't bad. The other item was the Milani Baked Bronzer in the shade Dolce, which I did feature in my most recent 7 First Impressions video, which I will link if I still have cards available. And this bronzer does have more of a warm undertone. It has a bit of a sheen to it. It was so powdery when I put my brush in it, but not in like a good pigmented powdery way, just like poof poof, it was dusty. And I thought it looked nice in the video, but I wore it several more days in a row after I filmed that 7 First Impressions, and I was just not impressed with it. It didn't show up in my skin tone well enough, and it was just dusty. And I love my Milani matte baked bronzers. That formula is so good. And again, I have a bunch of bronzers. I didn't need that one in the first place, so I ended up returning that one as well because it just is not near as good as my other favorite bronzers. So those are the 3 things that I returned this month. Now I will go over the other makeup products I'm choosing to declutter from my collection. So I have a couple things here, but then after that, I am going to be inserting a bunch of clips I filmed throughout the past 2 months of other things that I decluttered, and I didn't wait until today to show them to you because I already had friends I wanted to pass them on to. So you're going to see a bunch of different clips, a bunch of different lighting, so I apologize for that, and hopefully that won't happen in future updates, but I'm really happy with the amount of products I chose to declutter for my collection. So now I'll just show you the items I have here that I'm decluttering. I have 3 lip liners. The first is the Milani Anti-Feathering Lip Liner. This is just a clear lip liner. I have had this for a couple years and I've used it maybe 3 times, and I am someone that doesn't really have lip products feather on me. I just use lip liners basically to create a map of where to fill in my lip color because my lips are the same color as my skin and it can get real messy real quick, but it's not because products bleed. I do think this is a good formula. When you apply it, it feels really thin and creamy, but then after you let it set for a couple seconds, it starts to feel a little sticky, which is what helps keep the product on your lips. And the reason I've kept it is because, oh, I'll probably use it, I'll probably need it. I've used it only a handful of times over the past couple years, and I've never been like, oh, thank God I have this. It really came in handy today. So I'm just going to give that to somebody else. The other 2 lip liners I have are from ColourPop, which is my favorite formula, but I just don't use these shades. I have the shade Cake, which is a neon peach color, and Brills, which is a neon lavender shade. I'm going to pass these on to a friend. The last thing I'm getting rid of, I feel bad about, I'm sad about. This is the Juvia's Place Nubian palette. I did just film a palette of the month review video on this. I'll have it linked up in the cards so you can see my in-depth thoughts on this palette. This is a beautiful warm neutrals palette that isn't really yellow, orange, red. So this is a little bit more office appropriate than other warm tone palettes might be. I think they have beautiful mattes, beautiful shimmers and foils that perform very well. This palette is fantastic quality. I think the colors are beautiful, but I have these 100 times over in my collection. So I'm going to give this to my sister. So now I'm going to insert all of the clips of the other items I've decluttered over these past 2 months. So I am jumping in to show you 3 other products that I will be decluttering. The first item is the Lottie London Blush Crush in the shade Just, and it's a beautiful warm pink. This was a gift to me, and that makes me feel bad getting rid of a gift, especially mentioning it in a video. I would rather do it like discreetly, but I think this is a very pigmented blush. It's a matte finish. It's a really pretty color, but it's not a unique color or formula to my collection. I have so many of these, and while I still love blush, I don't feel the need to own every pinky coral. I have so many summer blushes. I know this one is just going to be neglected, so I will pass this on to a friend who doesn't have as big of a blush collection as I do, but nothing is wrong with this formula or this color. The next thing I will be passing on is the Pixi and Weylie palette called Let's Talk Eyes. It comes with 6 shades. These 3 are shimmers and these 3 are mattes. I've just used the mattes in this palette. I used them in the first impression. I used it today. I used both of these products today just so I can give them another try to make sure I want to get rid of them, and I've decided that I do. So these 3 matte shades, when you put your brush in them, they do have a little bit of kick up, which is weird because usually that means they're going to be very pigmented, but when I put them on my eye, they just aren't that pigmented. This is not even really blended. I used a dense brush and it just did not pack on that much color. But the pigment is there, but the color is not. It looks like it's already blended when I first apply it. And it isn't necessarily that there's something wrong with that. I was able to get a decent amount of pigmentation, but I was just expecting a lot more payoff from these colors, considering that they do have a bit of kick up. They are pretty shades, but I have so many other warm eyeshadows in my collection that perform better, so I will be passing this on to a friend. And this last item is the one that is the toughest for me, but I have to do it. I've got to let it go. This is the Balm Meet Matchmaker. I did recently post an entire palette of the month review video on this. I will have that linked up here. I really like the shimmers. I think they perform really well. They are very beautiful and metallic. I do think you need a cream base underneath to really make them stick to the eye. I really had some trouble with the matte. These looked a little bit choppy and patchy and they would not blend out well. Also, they have some really dark shades in these duos, which I think would work well for deeper skin tones, but because I am so fair, they're just so dark on me. I never really use shades this deep. I love the Balm Meet Matte Nude and Meet Matte Tremoni palettes, but this formula is not the same as the other Meet Matte palettes. And I think some of these shades are really beautiful, but the colors I like from here, I have in other palettes, and I don't see myself reaching for this palette just to use one or two specific shades. So I would rather pass this on to somebody else that would enjoy the entire palette. I'm actually getting rid of some pretty tough items right now, but I'm also feeling really proud. I am getting rid of 3 cheek products and 4 palettes. So out of all of these items, there's only one product that was in my chopping block intro. That item was the Tarte Amazonian Clay Blush in the shade Magic. This is a really beautiful, bright, warm tone pink with a matte finish. I actually really love this color and it is a nice formula. However, I do have other blushes similar in tone in my collection, so I will be passing this on to my sister who doesn't have as many blushes as I do. My next cheek product is the Revlon Photo Ready Bronzer in Bronze and Chic. I did use up one of these in the past, and my friend Jean sent me a backup a couple years ago, and this is definitely one of the best drugstore bronzers out there because you have 4 different tones of matte bronzer. Unfortunately, this was discontinued, which was so dumb because Revlon doesn't already have a good bronzer in their line, so it makes no sense why they would get rid of this, but that's Revlon for you. And even though I love this bronzer, I have so many others that I have not used this since I used up my other one. And the Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer has come out since I fell in love with this one, and that is my new favorite drugstore bronzer that is still available. So I am going to give this bronzer to my sister. And my last cheek product is the Balm Mary Duminizer. I did win this in a giveaway, and I'm really grateful because I was able to test it out and review it for you guys. It's a really pretty golden champagne shimmery liquid highlight. It has no glitter in it. It's really easy to blend out. It's actually a really great formula, but unfortunately this shade is like 3 times too dark for me, and it is a lot darker than the powder version, which is my favorite highlight. And if you guys watch my first impression, it just looked way too deep on my skin. And once I put all of my other face products on top of this, you don't see it anymore. So I'm going to pass this on to my friend Jean, who absolutely loves highlighters. So now moving on to palettes, these first 2 are the hardest ones for me to get rid of. The first would be the Urban Decay Naked Original palette. As you can see, I've hit pan in this palette. This is one of the first palettes I ever bought, and since then so many better palettes have been released. It's a good formula, but I just don't love these shades. My favorite shade is Half Baked. It is literally the best gold I've ever used, but it's in the Naked 2 palette, so I don't need this. What's making it easier for me to let go of this is the fact I'll be passing it on to my sister. The next palette is also really hard for me to get rid of because this was a gift from my friend Jean as well, and this is the BH Cosmetics Carly Bible Original palette. She has since released a deluxe version which looks stunning. She kept all the best shades and added some new ones. So in this palette you get 4 highlights and 10 eyeshadows, 1 more mauve row and a more bronzy row. Out of the shades in this palette, I love these 3 mattes. This color right here is such a unique shade. I tried to dupe it in my collection and I haven't found anything exactly like this. And I love these colors, but they are a little bit patchy. They don't blend the best. And I tried this champagne on my lid and it didn't last through the entire day. So while I think this is a good palette, I know with all the ones I have in my collection, I'm not going to get the proper use out of this. My next palette is the Pure Trolls palette. I did receive this as PR from Pure, which was pretty exciting. So in this palette, you have some neutrals, some really pretty brights, and these shadows are actually a nice formula. But out of this palette, these 3 shades are my favorite. Of course, like the basic warm neutrals, an amazing gold, a really nice, slightly burnt, bright orange, and then you have this color here, which is a burnt orangey tan. I have not been able to find anything that's a dupe for this. I've looked in my Modern Renaissance palette, the Too Faced Just Peachy Mattes. I don't have anything that's an exact dupe, and this shade alone made me want to keep this palette. However, I don't reach for this palette just to use that shade, so then I can't justify keeping it for that color. So I am going to be passing this on to my friend Jean. My last palette is the Morphe 25B. I did win this in a giveaway, and again, I feel really bad whenever I am decluttering something that I was gifted or I won in a giveaway, because I promise I'm not being ungrateful, but I just have so many products in my collection. I don't want to hold on to it just because, and then it goes bad and I never use it. So I'd rather give it to somebody else. I actually have never even worn this on my eyes. I've only swatched it and the formula seems fine, but it's these colors that are just a no for me. So this row here is like a foiled shimmer. The rest are mattes. These two rows here actually are showing up more different on camera than they do in person. They're just so dark and so similar. There are subtle differences, but you can use these interchangeably on the eye and you wouldn't notice. So I will be giving this to my friend Sierra. So I have 5 products I will be decluttering today. 3 eye products and 2 face products. I will start with the face products. This is a little mini of the Cover FX Custom Enhancer Drops in the shade Moonlight, which is a really pretty champagne-y gold color. I got this in a Sephora Play. I've only used it twice and it is much too deep for my skin tone, which is such a bummer because it is really beautiful metallic. It was a really nice formula to work with. It's just the shade that isn't going to match me, unfortunately, so I will be passing that on to a friend. And the next item I'm getting rid of might be a little bit of a shock, and this is the Becca Shimmer and Skin Perfector Pressed in the shade Opal. I did have this in my summer project pan, and my goal was just to hit pan on this, but it was too dark for me, so I had to mix with another highlighter, and that felt very wasteful to me. Then for the eye products, this first one you guys might also be surprised I'm decluttering it. It's the Milani Shadow Eyes Pencil in the shade Golden Bronze. It truly is like a golden coppery color, and I love the Milani Shadow Eyes pencils. I have several shades of these. This one is a little bit harder to work with. It feels like there might be some glitter pieces in here. It isn't as smooth and creamy as some of the other shades, so I'm going to pass this on to my sister. Then I'm also getting rid of another Milani Shadow Eyes pencil. This one is in Royal Purple. It is a matte bright purple, one of their 6 original shades. I think they may have even discontinued this one. Milani got rid of all of their really bright colors and only kept their more neutral ones, which is a bummer. It's a beautiful shade. I've had this for a very long time. It's a good formula, but I have not reached for this base in literally years. I have other bases that I can use with purple looks, and this makes my shadows a little bit too deep because this is so rich. A good formula is a color I don't reach for. My last item is an eyeliner. This is the Sephora Contour Eye Pencil Waterproof in the shade number 33 Love Affair. It is a shimmery plum color, and it does not show up purple on me. I wish it was like this color purple in a liner. That would be awesome, but this is just too subtle for me. I don't reach for pencil liner a ton. So that was all for the makeup, and now I have nail polishes. So if you guys are not interested, thank you so much for watching, but if you are interested, I was able to test out 7 different polishes over the past 2 months. I'm keeping 3 and getting rid of 4, so I'll show you the ones I'm keeping first. This first shade is Pop Beauty Mint Magic. This is the most gorgeous neon mint polish. This is not a good formula. In 3 coats, you still have a bunch of streaks, and I'm holding on to this because the color is so beautiful. And the other 2 polishes I'm keeping, we'll see if I keep them forever, but I use these together and I actually really enjoy them. So the polishes would be Estee's Play Date, which is a beautiful orchid purple, and the Zoya Pixie Dust in the shade Stevie, which is such a pretty purple shade with a ton of silver glitters in here, and this looks like a little purple gumdrop on your nails. It's so pretty, and I think the reason I love these polishes so much more is in combination and because my fingernails were long. I always like polishes more when I have long nails. I did take a picture of these polishes on my nails, so I'll insert that now. So those are the 3 polishes that I will be keeping. Then I've got 4 polishes I'm getting rid of. I have 2 blues. The first is Zoya's Blue, spelled B-L-U. I love the Zoya polishes. They have such a great formula, such pretty shades, but this blue is way too white-based for me. And then I have Estee Bikini Sotini, which is a light periwinkle blue color. It has some subtle shimmer in it. This is a really pretty shade, but even after 3 coats, it is still streaky, and I cannot stand this formula. However, KL Polish St. Clair is very similar in color. I did see a comparison picture from Cork Manicures on Instagram, who I definitely recommend you guys follow. They looked identical on her nails, but the formula of Kale polish is so much better. That polish has been sold out for months, and when it comes back in stock, I will repurchase that because I really love this kind of shade. I just cannot stand this formula. My next polish is from L'Oreal. It is called Hint of Lavender. L'Oreal has some really nice polishes in terms of formula, but their shades are not that exciting, and I think this was probably from some limited edition collection, and this does have a hint of lavender, and it's mostly a pink polish. I do not like pink nail polish on my hands. An impulse buy that I regret buying, I think I got it last summer. This is OPI Malibu Pure Pressure. This is a beautiful Barbie pink. Remember, I just said I never wear pink nail polish and I don't like it. So why did I buy this? I got it for half off at TJ Maxx, which I think is the reason I bought it, but it's a good formula, a pretty shade, but I just do not do pink polish, especially really bright like this. So that is my chopping block update number 3. I feel really good about all of the products I am decluttering from my collection. It is always sad when I have to throw makeup products away, but I would love to know if you guys are doing a similar thing over on your channel, or what products you have decluttered from your collection recently. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye guys.